This is the 20th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, SPRO, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning, and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, back in studio. After a week away, we did have a day 4 with Frank Scalish last week. We will have a day 4 this week. We got a heck of a week. A lot of things went down in the world of professional bass fishing over the past week, and a lot of things are about to go down in the world of professional bass fishing over the next week. I'm usually fairly stingy with like show notes and what I have lined up. I got a piece of paper here, double-sided, completely filled with statistics, with who won what, with who's going to win what, with what we have upcoming, a number of different opportunities for BTL listeners to get their hands on some stuff, including today. Last year I really did a focus on industry shows, kind of peeling back the curtain, talking to different guys who make their living in the professional bass fishing industry, in the professional fishing industry, just outside of casting for cash. And we're going to get to some guys who have made a lot of cash casting for it this year. I spent way too much. I got up at like 5 this morning and spent way too much time crunching some stats because I was like, I don't think this guy has not cashed a check yet this year. And it's pretty impressive. But back to the industry, one of the longtime sponsors of BTL, SPRO Gamakatsu, obviously the top name, Brandon Hook. And we have the sales manager for Gamakatsu USA, Ted Thibault. Now, all the Cajun folks like Cliff Crochet would be really proud of this because it's Tebow, like the football player, but it's the Cajun spelling of Tebow. We've had this show planned for, a couple of months. Some new technology, some really cool stuff coming out from Gamakatsu. And we'll bring Ted right in right now because it's like 6:30 in the morning where he is out in California, the sales manager. Ted, thanks for jumping on BTL this morning. Greatly appreciate the time. I know this has been a show that is a while in the making. We have slideshows, we have giveaways, we have all sorts of stuff that's going to go down in the first half of the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me on the show this morning. And it's I'm in Washington, not California. But
Washington. Sorry.
It's all right. No, it's still 6:30 in the morning. So the day after a time change, but that's okay. It's just like getting up to go fishing.
Are you in the part of like Washington where it rains like 250 days a year?
You know, everybody says that, but it really doesn't rain as much as you think. The summers are beautiful, so that it really is. It's the late spring through the summer. It's just it makes up for it. Every place has got its ugly part of the weather, and ours happens to be the rain. So
okay, maybe I could get this wrong too. I believe the Columbia River is in Washington, right?
That is correct. It's the border between both Washington.
Isn't that where they were going to have, I think, an Elite Series tournament back in 19 or something, and then the schedule got changed? Are you close to there? Do you ever get to wet a line on the Columbia River?
So it's 2 hours away.
You're right there.
So honestly, most of the time, a lot of us are, obviously the bass fishing is really good. So is the walleye fishing. There's a lot of big walleye caught out there, but the king of the hill out here is salmon. So everybody's wanting to catch salmon on the Columbia. That's usually what everybody's running down there for.
Do you salmon fish at all?
Some. Do a little bit of everything. I get a chance to do quite a bit of just with what we do with Gamakatsu. It's, obviously bass is a huge market for us, but we touch every fishery. Whether you're fishing for striped bass in the salt water, you're fishing for snapper down the Gulf. We're involved with a lot of different fisheries. So it's important, I think, for the people that work for the company to be diversified in a lot of those fisheries. You got to have experience in a lot of different places.
Do you have any idea roughly what percentage of hook sales from and terminal tackle? I know Gamakatsu's diversified a lot into boxes and terminal tackle and things like that, but do you have any idea like what percentage you would say tournament fishing make up for the sales? I would imagine it'd have to be a fraction of all of the sales, just with how big it is and how many people use those hooks and fish for different species.
Well, I'll answer the question maybe in a different way. Like, our two best-selling hooks are octopus hook, which is a very universal, all-purpose hook that's used for just about every kind of fishery there is out there, including bass fishing. And then our next best-selling hook is our EWG. So
oh, heck yeah! So that's big time. Yeah, that's a lot of bass fishing.
So that kind of just gives you an idea of kind of the split between. Bass fishing is a big part of what we do, but it's obviously, like you said, the all-purpose side and some of just the plain freshwater fisheries in general are still pretty big as well.
I've known you for a couple years. We've gotten to hang out and drink a few beers at some of the media events that you've attended, that I've attended as well. This isn't your first rodeo. You've been doing this gig for more than a minute, Ted.
Yeah, I've been in the industry quite a while. I always kid around that I tell people I got started when I was 12 years old. But no, to give you an example, the first ICAST show I went to was in 1988. So
what was ICAST like in 1988? Do you remember that first show?
Oh, absolutely. Very different. It actually wasn't called ICAST then. It was called AFTMA, which was the American Fishing Tackle Trade Association, something of that nature.
Another exciting acronym.
Exactly. And so it was bigger. I will tell you that it was much bigger because, back then, I can't believe I'm saying this back then story, but back then there wasn't as much consolidation. So, everybody, Abu Garcia, Fenwick, I'm just using the pure fishing brands as an example. Those were all independent brands that had their own booths. Yep. So it was very different in that regard. And everybody's more dressed up. It's funny how time has changed too. When we used to go to shows, you were wearing a coat and tie a lot of times at business and trade shows.
Really?
Absolutely. So it wasn't flip flops and shorts like it is today.
Really?
Yes.
So you've seen the whole social media revolution as it transitions, as it comes to product drops and media. I mean, podcasts weren't around obviously in 88. I mean, that has had to been quite the transition to go from what I would imagine would be TV and print and tackle shops, which were the three main ways that you probably got the products to the consumers and introduced them to it, to now you've got a plethora of different options to introduce new products, and it's just boom, 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 one after another. So you're obviously good at adapting if you've survived that massive technological revolution.
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. When we first started, it was TV and print, and those were big deals, and a lot of grassroots things. That was we did the trade shows, the consumer shows were the big avenue. That was the early internet. So everybody came to the consumer shows. So as much as I hate to say this, I have a million miles on United, and most of those were earned back in those days, traveling to all these different locations to promote your products, because that's what it was all about. I mean, the shows, most of the consumer shows, particularly in the Midwest back then, were 10-day shows. Most people don't realize how. I mean, it was over 2 weekends. That was the vast majority of those were all 10-day shows.
That had to just be a debacle by about day 7 or 8.
Oh, it was insanity. It was just like it was the world tour of fish and tackle shows, and you just went from one to the other. I mean, Chicago, Indianapolis, Detroit. I mean, you just made the run. It was the gauntlet, and we did it every spring. And everybody that has been in the industry for a long period of time remembers those days. And you look back, and they were a lot of fun. There was the camaraderie. It was a fraternity, and it still is to a certain degree, but it was much different then because that's everybody was on the road doing the same thing all the time.
All right, here's what we got going today, folks. So Ted is on Gamakatsu. I've had a chance to fish with these new Nano Alpha hooks. I actually think I caught my biggest fish at Washita because I put a number 6 treble on the back of one of the jerk baits, but we'll get to that. So we're going to run through what this is, and then we're also going to get a sneak peek. You got clearance? Like, we can show this? I can mention it now because I don't want to say. Okay.
No.
So biggest thing that's going, obviously, hanging a minnow, mid-strolling, Damiki rigging, whatever you want to call it. As we get more and more involved into this technique, we're learning, based on live, based on experience, that there are some critical factors in the jig head. It's not just a chunk of lead on a hook that add action to the bait. Gamakatsu's on top of this too, and we're going to get the first look at one of the new heads kind of for this technique called the Horizon Head. Correct, Ted?
That's correct. It's actually a
Okay.
series of jig heads, and so it's the we have 3 different versions of the Horizon Head, and the name's very applicable because this head was developed in Japan. We have a fisherman over there that really nobody here would know. He's not like a pro in regards to the tournament scene, but he is a professional fisherman. And this gentleman developed this Horizon Head actually several years ago. This technique has been around, and so as this is becoming more, this mid strolling and deep strolling is becoming more and more popular and gaining a lot of popularity, we felt that we had the perfect head for it. And so what's interesting about this is I was starting to get calls from our pros and some of our key retailers that, hey, you guys have this head in Japan and you need to just bring it in because everybody's buying it bootleg through Japan and websites. And it's funny how that happens sometimes. There's a lot of stuff we develop in Japan first, and people will start to find it or look at it and get interested in it, and we'll bring it in. So
we'll save that for the grand finale to show that Horizon Head. Before we get into the Nano Alpha, I do want to remind anybody that's watching now, you got a chance to get your hands on these before they become before they're distributed out. You can ask Ted a question, so be thinking about this. Hook related, life related, relationship advice related. I don't care because Ted's gonna get to pick the question on which one he likes. So ask Ted a question. You get a chance to win a Nano Alpha prize pack from Gamakatsu. If we select your question at the end of the show, you can just email me your contact information. Since it's been well established over the last 3 years that I'm very poor at mailing things out in a timely fashion, I will pass that along to Ted, and then that will be his responsibility to get that prize pack out to you. So keep that in mind kind of over the next. Yeah, it's a presentation. I call it a presentation. It's like a PowerPoint slide. I've got some like PowerPoint slides here. It's a BTL first. I don't think anyone's ever sent me like a PDF PowerPoint presentation. Well, no, Jeffrey's used to do it all the time. So, all right. First of all, talk about the name Nano Alpha. What the heck is this? You look at the catalog for Gamakatsu. There's a million different things in it. What was kind of the thought process behind adding a whole new lineup to the hook category, Ted?
So Nano Alpha is a coating. First and foremost, it's a coating that we put on the hooks, and what it does is it makes the hook 2 times slicker. So it's a slick coating on the hook, and so that obviously gives you better penetration, better hookups. The other big part of this is it's got 4 times the corrosion resistance. So that coating actually allows you to keep the integrity of the hook intact and the wire intact from and limiting any rusting or corrosion that you might have on it. So you just wind up with a slicker and more corrosion resistant product. So nothing else changes on the hook. If you're used to using an EWG, for example, for a lot of your techniques, that hook's identical in every way, shape, and form except for the coating. So we've just taken what we feel is the world's best hook and just made it a little bit better. This technology, I think, is important. The other thing I wanted to add to this is not something we just invented yesterday. The Nano Alpha technology has been used in Japan for, probably the last 4 or 5 years. So it's been proven. And the truth is the majority of the hooks that are offered in Japan have the Nano Alpha coating on them. And so we're just introducing this into the US. So I think it's important for everybody listening and watching this to understand it's not like we just went out and developed this yesterday. It's already been proven. It's already been in the marketplace. It's been widely accepted in Japan. Again, we're just trying to bring what we feel is a better technology to anglers.
How is this different than I'm thinking of like the G finesse trebles and some of the drop shot stuff that looks similar? Like it's got that gray, it's like super slick on it. Is this different than that, or is this the same thing? Just okay. So do you know?
It actually is different. Yep. So the difference between you're currently using is Nano Smooth Coat, and the concern we had internally was not to confuse people about this, because the difference between the two is that the Nano Alpha, the slickness is very similar to the Nano Smooth Coat, but where the Nano Alpha really shines is in its corrosion resistance. That's where you really see the difference between the 2 different coatings.
So we're talking, you hang them on a jerk bait, you put your hooks in your tackle box. The biggest thing everyone deals with it on a daily basis. You pull it out, it's got a little rust on it, makes it less sharp, makes it weaker. So you guys are saying, hey, here's a problem, and this is the solution to that problem. So when you change your treble hooks, you throw it in the box. These things are rust free when you pull them out.
Yes, and just to be clear here too, when we're launching into the U.S., we decided just to choose a few models. I touched at the start of the show about the octopus hook and the EWGs. That's exactly the hooks that we're putting this on. So I don't have this available yet on a wide range of hooks. It's very limited because what we wanted to make sure was that the anglers out there embrace the technology, that they like the technology. We were concerned about our retail partners maybe not wanting to make the switch. So we thought it'd be better for us just to introduce it initially on a few of the styles. And then once we see the market acceptance of this, we'll start to expand that into more and more hooks.
Okay. So how did you guys test the corrosion resistance then? You just like put them in a wet tackle box and forget about it for a year?
Well, a lot of that technology was done in Japan, and quite frankly, we're not given access to a lot of that high secret stuff, which is or top secret things that they do there. But what we decided to do was just do our own experiment here, just to kind of prove it. And this is what this slide shows here. If you look at the top row of hooks, that's our standard hooks. It's these are our hooks. Yep. So I've got a bronze hook there on the left, one of the Nano Alpha hook in the middle, and then our nickel silver black. That's what NSB stands for, is nickel silver black. Okay. And you can see that those hooks were put in right around Halloween in saltwater. So we went and accessed saltwater 100 miles offshore, hung those hooks inside these little clear plastic boxes. If you look below, basically 2 months later, you can see a dramatic difference between what you're seeing for rust. I mean, look at on the barb and the point of the NSB and the bronze, and you can just see just how much rust is there. Now, obviously, this is a very extreme situation. You're not going to have hooks sitting in salt water for 2 months, but we wanted it. We wanted to show. I think
you'd be shocked, Ted. You'd be shocked at some guys.
I understand, but as you look at the images, the picture is worth 1,000 words. I mean, it just tells the story right there. It's amazing how much better this is. So we feel like this is just a better technology. It's just going to make, like I said, the hook just that much better.
All right. You mentioned all the different types of hooks that you have. Obviously, a bunch of circle hooks, a bunch of saltwater hooks in this too, but a lot of bass applications as well, right?
Yes, this what you're going to basically see at the next slide, there you go, is we've got 5 different hooks that we're offering the Nano Alpha on initially. And the launch happens officially. Everybody watching this right now is getting a sneak peek on this, because the official launch of this is this Friday, and we're going to be really officially launching this right around the Classic. And so the Bassmaster Classic, we felt we hadn't done a mid-year introduction like this in quite a while, so we wanted to make sure we had all the hooks in stock, we had the inventory, so that when we did start showing these, that people could get them. The website for gamakatsu.com, they won't actually be up on the site until this weekend, because that's just when we were slated to put them up. So you're not going to find anything on the website yet. Again, this is really just a sneak peek for everybody. But you've got 5 different versions. You've got 2 offset shank worm hooks, which is our standard worm hooks, and you've got a round bend and an O'Shaughnessy bend, and then both the EWGs and the Superline and the regular EWG. That'll have the Nano Alpha coating on it. And then there's also, for those guys that are DIY guys, the 602 series, which is a jig hook. So that's just like our 604, which a lot of jigs report on. And that's identical to our 604 series hook, just in the Nano Alpha version.
I feel like I have some treble hooks.
You do not, because there is not a treble hook with the Nano Alpha coating on it.
I got some sort of treble hook that's got slick. Maybe it's just the round bend finesse ones. You
may have received some, because occasionally I know we send out to you guys some test hooks that we're maybe working on to bring to market. So
should I not have said anything about that?
No, it's okay. Sid probably sent you some that are super.
Oh, you did.
You never know.
Amazing. Like, I literally caught a 5-pounder because the fish were nipping at my bait. I'm not even sure what hook it was, but it had some sort of coating on it. And I was like, oh, I had these. There's like no packaging. It's just in a packaging, has some writing on it. Yeah. And I caught a 5-pounder that was just nicked through the tip of the nose that cashed a check for me at Washita. And I was really proud of myself that I had saved that pack that had gone from my house, actually made it into the boat. I knew where it was, had made that change in the tournament, and then caught a fish that I believe was because I changed my back treble hook. So maybe we'll have to be back on if
oh yeah, no, I think I know what hook you're talking about. So yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right, there's that. This is just kind of a timeline on when you guys can when everybody can expect it. But that's kind of the rundown on The Nano Alpha. Now I do have a question, and it's interesting because I have received 3 emails about this, Ted, of people who have heard about this and they're asking, hey, does this replace the Aaron Martin's hook? The green packaging that's in all the stores that has that. Is that an O'Shaughnessy bend in it? Would you call that? Or what kind of bend is that? It's an interesting bend, but one of the cool things, and I think I see it every single time I open up my pack of treble hooks, is Amart's face right there. The Aaron Martin's design treble hook. Is this replacing that?
No, not at all. This is an addition to. So we're still going to have all the hooks that we have today. So let's just say, for example, you decide you don't want the Nano Alpha coating. You're still going to be able to buy the hook in a standard form. So we're not replacing anything. This is just going to be an addition to. We're like I said, this is nothing's going away. We have a very long history with Aaron, and he was very important to the company, and he had a lot of ideas, and we want that legacy to live on.
All right, that works. We're going to take our first break of the show. It is Monday, March 11th, back in studio, a action-packed week here at BTL. BASS Conservation Director Gene Gilliland, also Bass Fishing Hall of Fame member Gene Gilliland, will be in studio tomorrow on the 12th, and then the 13th, Kyle Patrick is in town. A lot of guys in Oklahoma right now as practice starts for the Bassmaster Classic on Grand Lake this weekend. He will be in studio on Wednesday talking about his hot start to his rookie season and fishing in the Bassmaster Classic on Grand. And when we come back, we'll get our first sneak peek at the Gamakatsu Horizon Head, and Ted will field your questions, and then we'll pick a couple questions for a prize pack. It's BTL on a Monday. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top on Strike King.
Any fish, any water.
Yes.
Fishing isn't just a hobby, it's an obsession. Whether it's blazing hot or bitterly cold, bright sunshine, raining, or even snowing, someplace, somewhere, there's a fish that's ready to bite. And as the angler, you need baits that will catch the fish anywhere, anytime, no matter the conditions. From throwing topwaters to cranking the depths, know the baits to throw. Choose SPRO.
In 2023, we became a household name in the crappie fishing world thanks to Power Breaks, the game changer. Hey, bass fishing world, buckle up, because you're next. It's going to be fun. Welcome to the next evolution of our product line, Power Breaks Sidekick, designed to install right on your shallow water acres. We are the first and only fishing brake company to offer a breakaway system. Just like with the Game Changer, the Power Breaks Sidekick has it as well. And it's not a matter of if you're going to need it, it's when. Power Breaks, the most durable fishing brakes available on the market today. Made right here in the USA with our rock-solid 2-year warranty. Hey, not all fishing brakes are built equally, and you owe it to yourself to find out why ours are different. Power Breaks Sidekick. Order yours today at mypowerbrakes.com. You'll be glad you did.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Monday, talking with Ted Thibault, sales manager for Gamakatsu USA, talking about the Nano Alpha launch. Let's get to some questions. We do have a bunch of questions, and like I said, if your question is selected, I'll probably let you choose that question, so I don't feel that wrath. I'll just go ahead and throw that on you at the end for having to pick it. Bass Fanatic would like to know, and listen, you're a sales manager. You're not like a Gamakatsu scientist who's like in the lab designing and working on these things. So within reason, I think it's very reasonable to expect there might be some I don't know answers on here. And even though you have, 30 years of experience, it just might not be your expertise, or you can't talk about it. Bass Fanatic would like to know, has Gamakatsu ever made or experimented with hook materials like titanium or other metals? That's an interesting question.
No, I saw that one. I was looking through when we were at break there on some of the questions, and I saw that one as well. And we actually did, we have some hooks made out of, well, there's a technology in Japan called G-Hard. And the challenge with it is, and we've experimented with it quite a bit, is it doesn't flex a little bit. It's really important for the metal or the wire to have a bit of flex. You don't want something that's super stiff. If it's too stiff, people all think that would be so for a worm hook. The G-Hard technology, we've got a few hooks in Japan that we use this for, because keep in mind, a lot of saltwater fishing done in Japan. It's an island. It's surrounded by saltwater, so that's a big part of it. So just pointing that part out. But there is a fine line between when we temper the hook, that it has a little bit of flexibility to it too, because if it's too, it'll become brittle otherwise. Mm-hmm. If it has no give or flex to it whatsoever. So that is something that we've played around with some as well.
Is that why a lot of the extra heavy hooks have a bigger diameter so they can still have a little bit of flex in them? Because I'm sure you have the technology to make a thinner diameter with zero flex in it, but you need that little bit of flex.
Correct. You need exactly, and you've got to have that. And that's what TGW wire is all about, which is our tournament grade wire. So that wire is actually thinner than our standard wire. So, but it's stronger, and so that was kind of a fine line between what we could do with regular wire versus the basically it's the best high carbon steel on the planet, and so we're able to make that hook thinner, stronger, and it's actually sharper by using that new metal. So another hook we played around with for saltwater was stainless steel, but the challenge there is it's super sharp. You can't believe how well it holds up and how sharp it is. But a lot of regulations prohibit you from using stainless steel in certain fisheries. So to answer the question, yes, we have played around with other metals as well.
Blake would like to know if the new slick coating makes it harder to pour his own lead. He has a custom mold for a certain type of jig, so will the lead stick just as good to the main shank of the hook?
Absolutely. So I saw that was a very repeated question when I was cruising through the questions. There was several listeners and people asking that question, and no problem whatsoever. That's why we're making it a jig hook. As a matter of fact, the Horizon Head that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, which has lead poured on it, has our Nano Alpha coating. So no problems whatsoever to pour your own jigs on these. Ohio
Bassmaster would like to know if the Nano Alpha coating makes the hook lighter or heavier in weight compared to the standard offset or EWG or whatever hook you're using.
None whatsoever. Really, it's just it's such a light coating that we're putting on this. It's not like it's going to change the weight of the hook at all.
And Mike wants to know, it's not all EWGs that are going to this. Like, you're still going to have your standard Gamakatsu EWGs, the EWG Superline hooks, the Mike McClellan hook, like all that stuff stays. This is just an addition to the family.
That is exactly right. So we wanted to make sure that people that are used to or very comfortable with fishing our current technology, that we don't want to take that away from you. We just want to have this in addition to.
All right. This might be an engineer question, and he kind of beats around the bush a little bit, but I had this question too. What is the difference between the needle point or a cutting point? Because there are some brands that are all about the cutting point, and then there are other brands that are all about the needle point. Can you talk at all about that, or is that for someone with a different expertise, Ted?
Well, so the needle point, really, that's what we've always done. So that's what I can refer to.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I've not used a lot of the others just because that's, I just use our
because
product.
You've worked for Gamakatsu for 30 it's that's understood.
Well, it's just I've, it's our process is, I'll give you an idea of how little we do get to know. So when we go to Japan, we go to the Osaka show once a year, and that's in the end of January, first part of February. And we are not allowed to look in the factory at all. I've drove by it. I've stood in front of it. I've waved as I've gone by, but we're not allowed. And they do that for a reason. The technology and the way that they go about doing this is held very closely to them. And it's kind of like the Colonel's secret recipe for chicken. They're not going to divulge this to just anybody. So just suffice it to say that the needle point on our hooks has sure caught a lot of fish, won a lot of people a lot of money, and we feel like it's a superior technology.
All right. And interesting question from Bass Fanatic. He calls you Mr. T. I kind of like that. You cool with that?
Hey, whatever you want to call me.
Ted,
I've been called worse.
Ted, this is interesting. We're talking about innovation big time in bass fishing right now. And just when we think, we've innovated everything with lures in 2011, here comes the Alabama rig, or here comes the chatterbait, or it seems, you think everything's been invented an innovation until something new comes out and then it opens. Hook wise, he wants to know, will there be more big innovations in hooks, or is just about all that can be done with hooks already been done?
The best way I guess I can answer that question is just about the time you feel like I've got, our catalog is 160 pages full of hooks and other gear, right? So that's a lot of hooks. In Japan, the catalog's 400 pages, but there's a lot of others. Yeah, it's 400 pages. It's massive. Wow. And there's a lot of other things that they do in Japan that people don't realize. We're one of the largest rod manufacturers in Japan. So there's a lot of other things that we do over there. But I guess the best way for me to answer that is just about the time that we feel like our product development team, has pushed the edge on everything that's out there. All of a sudden, something new pops up. Just for example, like we talked about this new Horizon Head technology, this new, there's just always something that fishermen are constantly adapting and changing. Like we'll design a hook, for example. Here's a perfect example. Our G Finesse weedless wacky hook, right? Everybody, that's a very well-known hook out there, used by a lot of people. So out here, they do some bead fishing for steelhead and salmon. It's a little soft bead that they'll put just ahead of the hook. And it's a great technique. You can catch a lot of fish with it, but the landing ratio is not very good because these fish are big and powerful. So our warehouse manager is a huge steelhead fisherman, and he was talking to Jeff Roberts in our office, who does a lot of the bass development stuff. And those two were talking. He's like, well, I got this thing with the beads, and they were going back. Long story short, we took that, cut the weed guard off of it, tied it on for steelhead, and we just launched that hook in the Pacific Northwest as the all-new bead hook. So it's amazing how we'll design a hook for one application, but then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we're using it for something else.
My favorite's a 6mm peachy pearl. When we're bead fishing, like I love the peachy pearl. For those who don't bead fish, like if you go up to Alaska, if you go out on the West Coast, you'll go into a tackle shop, and just like we'll have a wall with rock crawlers or terminal tackle, they'll have a bead wall. Right. And you walk in and you're like, boy, these people love their Carolina rigs. And then you start realizing that each bead imitates some sort of roe or spawn of whatever salmon is spawning in that river. And they have them from tiny all the way up to bigger ones. And you buy like a little can of beads, and then you have to put it below the hook, or just above the hook. You peg it. So it's literally a Carolina rig bead. Some states have different regulations as to how close the bead can be to the hook. 2 inches, I think, is what it is in Alaska. And then you have that little hook, and then you go out into a river that you can't see in, that's a 15-mile-an-hour current. And somehow these trout and salmon see these beads drifting across the bottom. And if you've got the wrong color hue of orange or pink, or it's 2 millimeters off, they won't touch it. Otherwise, you go there and your indicator goes down every drift. It's one of the most fun ways to fish. It's literally a bead. That's what you're fishing with, is a bead.
Nope, but that's, like I said, it's got a lot of buzz up here in the Northwest because it's a huge popular fishery. And all we did was take a hook that we used for bass fishing, cut the weed guard off, and put it in a different package. And that hook, by the way, does have Nano Alpha as well. So because there's a lot of saltwater situations that they're going to be, or brackish water they'll be in.
I couldn't remember what you said about this. Trevor wants to know, will these Nano Alphas be available for purchase at the Classic?
Absolutely. So we will have
Okay.
retailers there at the Classic. This will be the first time you'll see them really available at retail. All of our retailers nationwide, Tackle Warehouse, Omnia, some of those different places, you'll see the Nano Alpha hooks. Basically, we asked all our retailers to go basically this Friday, the March 15th, to go live with all their information and make them available at retail. The other thing we haven't touched on yet, and I will because I saw that question pop up a little bit, is this new technology is offered at the same price. We're not charging any extra for these. So what you pay for a regular NSB hook today is what you're going to pay for the Nano Alpha. So there's no additional charge for these. It'll be the exact same price.
All right. This is a question that I'm very curious about. Now, I haven't used them for years, but growing up, I'd use these things till they had turned gold. It's the... Are you guys working on a way to keep the red on the hook permanently? That's like that's a question you would expect from like 2005. Remember, you lived through the red hook revolution, didn't you?
It's amazing that people love their red hooks, and it's
is it still popular?
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing, especially like on the octopus hooks for sure. You get up in the walleye country and places like that, and they love those red octopus hooks. And it's an anodizing process, and so unfortunately, because of the way that it's done, there's not a real good way to keep it on there permanently. So. About the time that coating's wearing off, it's probably time to replace the hook anyway. They're not a forever purchase. It's one of those things that I think people, it's funny how we expect things to, it's a great quality hook. I've used Gamakatsu way before I, started to work for the company. But it's important. You got to change those hooks out, right? I mean, it's your connection to the fish. It's the most important connection there is. And so having good, sharp, fresh hooks are really important. I think. I really do.
Okay. And you can store these hooks with other hooks. This isn't like a deal where
you're going to get, I know exactly what you're doing. You're not getting some kind of a cross reaction or anything like that.
All right. We can't have a show without this one. Any innovation on making hooks that show up better on forward facing Sodar? I would have to imagine a harder metal would show up brighter.
Maybe a little bit, but I mean, you're talking about something that's so small.
I hear you.
That it's just going to be, you're asking for something that's just going to be pretty hard with today's technology to be able to do.
Yeah. Nick would like to know, just like personally, what your favorite steelhead hook is.
I don't do a lot of steelhead fishing, but I would say that the few times that I have gone, that the hook that we're normally using is just a regular octopus hook. That's been very, very popular hook. That's why it's still so popular. It's just a good all around hook.
All right, Ted, pick a winner.
Winner chicken dinner.
I mean, there were some that were the same. I was trying to think. I like the question about the next innovations. If there's anything, I like the question about experimenting with other materials. Anything that sticks out to you, or I could just like randomly scroll it up and down and whatever I land on. The only problem is like Bass Fanatic acts like 8, so that would like give him a slight advantage in the Nano Alpha prize pack category. But anything. Oh, Pete, one more question. Oh, you got one?
I do. But go ahead. We'll go with Pete's question. That's fine.
Pete wants to know if the eyelets are welded closed.
Not on these hooks. No, if we're welding a hook on, if we're already welding the eye, we'll continue to weld the eye and put Nano Alpha on it. But the current offering does not.
All right. Which question is it?
This is going to be, hopefully this will make everybody kind of laugh and enjoy it. But I'm scrolling back up at about 7:00. Jim Lechty, I believe, asked, please teach Mercer how to pronounce Gamakatsu.
Is that the winner?
That's the winner right there.
It's a statement. Jim comes out of nowhere with a statement.
Yes. I love it. It's not even a question, just a statement. The reason I picked that is because you and I, before we got on the show, it's amazing how many different ways people pronounce Gamakatsu. Yeah. And, you get up into the Midwest, it's Gamakatsu. You get those guys with that heavy accent and everyone wants to say, hey, Gamakatsu, that kind of thing. Yeah. So everybody's got their own little variation of Gamakatsu, but Mercer just hacks it up. And it's awesome to hear him say it every time.
Okay, so Jim, shoot me an email with your contact info, Matt, M-A-T-T, at BassZone, BASSZONE.com. Once I receive that email, I will forward that on to Ted, and you will get did you say there's a hat included in this too?
Yeah, we've got a Nano Alpha Gamakatsu Nano Alpha hat, decal, and a package of hooks for him.
That's fantastic. All right. Let me X out of this and then see if I can find this Horizon Head. This is the first look at it. No one has seen this yet, right?
There's been some people purchasing them. I'm sure there's some of your people watching this and listening to this have seen it around, but we're officially launching this in the US market on April 1st is when it'll actually be in stock. We've got them coming in. We've got some orders placed by retailers, but you won't physically have them available on our website or at retail until about April 1st.
Okay. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's a jig head. The technique is mid-strolling. I mean, you're not going to be blown away when you see this, but it's the minute details in what makes the difference. That's what we've learned, especially through the first 2 BPTs and Elite Series Tournament 2 the guys are very particular about this. So I don't know if you guys are ready for this. This is the Horizon Head. Boom. There it is.
So this is a series of heads. And so I guess the first one that you're looking at here is just our Horizon Head.
Yep.
And as you look, the difference is, and we've all seen jig heads like this where the lead comes down on the shank itself a little bit, but the design of this was such that this is just a round bend style. So this is a smaller offering on this particular one. So it's more designed for kind of finessey, lighter presentations. So this is in 3/64 ounce all the way up to a 16th. So real small. It looks
very light.
Picture. Yeah, it looks bigger in the picture because the way we're looking at it here. But that's our standard round bend.
Small. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yep, but that's our standard round bend hook, and that one is got the Nano Alpha coating on it as well.
Okay, and then I will pull up the next one. Hold on here.
So the next one we're going to see when Matt gets to it is our Horizon Head LG, or this is the LG weedless. And so there's 2 different versions of this hook. And if you'll notice on this one, the big difference is the gap. It's got a nice big gap on it. So that's really what the feedback I've received from some of our elite guys has been. That's what they really like about it. It's all about that hook, the point, the tip of the point angle, and the big gap that has. And so there's 2 different versions of this. And if that lead's poured down the shaft to give it more of a horizontal presentation in the water. And there was a professional fisherman. He's not really a touring pro or anything of that nature in Japan that actually developed this technique. And these heads have been available in Japan for quite some time, but they just recently become very popular. I've got retail accounts calling me and saying, they've been buying these bootleg through Japanese websites. And so we try to make it real easy for everybody and just bring them in. And so initially we offered Japanese packaging just so we could get them to the market quickly. And then they'll transition over to our normal.
We all know that catches fish better.
So this does have the Nano Alpha technology, and the other thing to keep in mind on the Nano of the LG and the LG weedless is that also is our TGW wire. So it's our best of our best. It's our best wire. It's our best coating on a head that's specially designed for that mid-strolling type technique.
Horizon heads. This was the first look at them. Like I said, specialty hook, but it's got the things that you need to do that mid-strolling technique. Shooting for, or it is a April 1st launch.
April 1st launch. It might even be just a little sooner. That's the hope, but that's when we're telling everybody that officially it'll be in stock, because we're waiting for them to come in to our inventory here shortly.
You headed to Tulsa for the Classic here next week, Ted?
Yep, definitely going to be. This is a big launch for us for the Nano Alpha. So we're going to be, it's all hands on deck. We'll be down there. We'll have product available. We'll have some new clothing that we've got out, some new hats, new t-shirts and hoodies that we'll have available there as well. And we're going to be giving out a lot of Nano Alpha hooks. So for people that come in and sign up for our email newsletter, we're going to be giving away, I believe, about 600 to 800 hooks a day.
Wow.
Packages of hooks. And when those run out, we're going to switch over to something else. But we can't do it for the entire time or the entire show. But we're going to have some frenzied opportunities there where people are going to be getting hooks.
You can follow my social media for when I'll be at the Gamakatsu booth, when they'll be giving out hooks. I'll post all that on my story, and on Instagram. You can also follow Gamakatsu USA. You can actually follow like a ton of Gamakatsu accounts, which is kind of cool because each one's a little different. They have like Japan and all the different like countries and stuff. But yeah, I follow Japan and USA on Instagram primarily, and all the other social medias. You got anything else that you want to get in here, Ted?
No, just appreciate everybody's support on the product. We enjoy what we do, and there's a team of us that put a lot of time and effort into making sure that we have the best hooks out there. And so it's a global effort. We work for a great company that gives us a lot of freedom to launch and introduce a lot of new products to the marketplace. So it's a lot of fun. We enjoy what we do, and appreciate you having us on the show here today, Matt.
See, we were talking, you were like, man, I don't know if we got enough for a full show. Like, we still have a whole nother show that I have to go through, like with everything that went on in the professional fishing world. We're 50 minutes in, Ted, and I was thoroughly entertained and educated and engaged the whole time. So thanks for getting up early in Washington to jump on BTL.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
All right, see ya. All right, that is Ted Thibault, sales manager for Gamakatsu USA. We're going to take our second break of the show. And when we come back, we have Bassmaster Open champion, NPFL champion, 2 very interesting Toyota Series champions, an angler who is having what I would say all around the best start to a season, I'll say in professional fishing history. We also have the opportunity to get some one-of-a-kind rock crawlers through a Best on Tour Greenfish RkCrawler SPRO collab. Updates on merch drops and a bunch of other stuff. It's BTL on a Monday, back in studio. Who knows how long this next segment will take, but we're going to dive into the tournament scene right after this.
The SPRO Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why SPRO is coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD. Having confidence in your tackle while on the water is one of the main things to success, in my opinion. In the last couple of years with Denali, I've had just that. From anything from spinning rods, casting rods, tungsten products, even now to casting and spinning reels, I have the confidence to go out there and get the job done and know that all my equipment is going to handle it and do it just the way I want it. The thing about Denali is you've got great quality products at a great price point, so make sure you check them out.
Have you considered purchasing new electronics for your rig? The type of mounts you choose to protect your investment should be part of the decision-making process. No matter if you prefer 1, 2, or 3 graphs up front, Beatdown Outdoors has a solution for you. Adjustable, versatile, rigid, and made in the USA. What's your ultimate electronic setup? Check out the full selection of Beatdown Outdoors products by visiting beatdownoutdoors.com.
Get the best patterns backed by tournament data. Start by finding the best 10% of your lake. Know exactly what to look for and what to throw. After that, just put them in the boat. Try the Deep Dive app today.
Look at that beast right there.
My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
I'm the kind of guy that never leaves a house without a pocket knife, and Gamakatsu's come out with the EDC series of knives. EDC stands for Everyday Carry, so whether you're on the water or off, you can always have it with you. The best thing about it to me is that assisted open feature. With this D2 blade, you've got it right here at your fingertips, so if you can't find your scissors, you need to cut a knot, you need to cut your braid, you've always got it. Make sure you check it out. Never leave home without your Gamakatsu EDC knife.
Born in Japan, using technology, innovation, and precision, Sunline produces the widest selection of fishing lines at the most technologically advanced line factory in the world. Manufactured at the strictest tolerances to produce victories at the highest levels of tournament bass fishing. From household names like Christie, Swindle, and Cruz, to young guns like Cook, Logan, New, and Welcher, they all trust Sunline to take them to the top of the leaderboard. Choose the line that will give you the strength to guarantee your confidence. Sunline.
All right, welcome back. BTL on a Monday. This might be one of the top 3 busiest Mondays that I've ever seen when it comes to covering professional bass fishing. We'll start with the championship, the $100,000 National Professional Fishing League Championship that went down at Lake Amistad. They took the top 26 anglers from 2023 season, put them on Amistad for 3 days. And I got to admit, when they first scheduled this for Amistad, because you have to remember they were supposed to have a championship, then they didn't have a championship, then they brought the championship back, and then they put it into this year. And they actually have done a really good job with this. $100,000. I was like, man, Amistad that's going to be a little rough. Even earlier in the year, dude, they freaking crushed them. You had some big names in it. You had John Cox. You had Patrick Walters. You had a lot of previous MPFL winners in it. Brandon Perkins, biggest margin of victory in NPFL history, wins by 15 pounds, 9 ounces. He goes 29-9, 21-12, and 20 pounds, 3 ounces for a 3-day total of 71-8 to take the $100,000 title. Not really a live scope or a forward-facing sonar. He used it a little bit during the event, but Amistad showed out. They hit it at a really good time of the year where they could catch them shallow. They could catch them deep on bluffs, swim baits, bed fishing, ultra shallow stuff, deep plastics. It all played. Hopefully this is a sign that Amistad could potentially be on the rebound for a long-term future. I mean, those are some big fish. A lot of the fish that I saw in the pictures and in the galleries and things like that looked really healthy, looked like really good fish. Obviously not back to the way it was in 06, 07, 08 during that boom. But congratulations to Brandon Perkins, who gets outside of Pickwick and dominates the field by a 15-pound, 9-ounce margin of victory. Then obviously Kyle Austin wins on Santee Cooper. I finished 160th in that tournament, folks. Absolute debacle. Worst Bassmaster Open finish I've ever had. I had a 24-day 5 bass limit streak going into that tournament. First day, I had 3 bass with 5 minutes left in the day. And next week, we're going to get Tristan McCormick on, who also bombardeered that event, to talk about it. I called him and he was like, no, dude, I want to come on and talk about it. Good learning stuff. But I had 3 with 5 minutes left. I caught a 4.5 to give me 4 for 10. And then I jumped off another 4 literally on my last cast, which would have extended that. But it was all for naught because the second day I only came in with 2. A very interesting fishery, but dominated by Kyle Austin. We've had Kyle on the show before. He narrowly missed the Bassmaster Elite Series last year. He comes in, catches over 30 pounds one day, has 83 pounds, 7 ounces. And he will be on the show next Monday, March 18th, to talk about that dominating victory. A lot of strategy went into play in this tournament. And I really like how he strategized to not only catch his fish, but as a guide on that, with everyone knowing that he was one of the top 5 favorites in that tournament, how he didn't get caught practicing the areas he planned on fishing. And then he was very, a lot of strategy in where he made sure other people saw him during the rest of the day, not knowing what he had in his box. Big deal there. You know, you can't look at Bass Track. You have no idea what anybody else has. Not like MLF where you know exactly who catches it when. So, you know, you're on the water. You have no idea who has what or when they caught him. But Kyle Austin, congratulations. A hard fought and hard-earned victory. I know he was really crushed last year going into that last event in Florida. A real legit shot. He was inside, actually, the Bassmaster Elite series cut, but now he's in the classic. He's in the catbird seat after 3 events. A lot of flip-flopping going on in the Bassmaster Open points. We'll talk a little bit about that, more of that with Tristan McCormick. I know Ronnie Moore mentioned it on the live show, but right now to be in the top 20, you just have to average a 51st. There were a number of anglers that were in that top 15, 20 points. I'd say half of them finished below 100th in this tournament. It was unbelievable. So I dropped down to 69th in points. I'm still in it, but I got to catch him for the rest of it. Let's go back. So 2 very interesting Toyota series. You've seen him on the show a bunch. He's won everything there is out on the West Coast, except one of these MLF Toyota series on Clear Lake. Ken Ma goes 21 pounds, 29.12 and 31.10. One of the cool things that they do on Clear Lake, I think if you have a fish over like 6 pounds, it has to have its own bag. He 5-bagged it up to the stage on the final day. 5 fish, 1 in each one. Won that primarily flipping and punching a plastic bait. Not a live scope win either on there. One of the things that is interesting, and they've struggled with this for the past years, and it's one of the reasons why I think it's bass and major events going out west. Man, you're at the start of the year. It's Toyota Series Western Division, 80 boats in that event. I know Billy with the one bass, and they just started, I think, the BAM trail out there, but Billy and one bass has been pulling a lot of numbers. But you want to see more tournaments out there? Put 170, put 180, put a 200 boat field out there. Have guys fill that field. That being said, 82.6 for 3 days. I don't think it mattered what that field was. Ken Ma with the win, a very well-deserved win. I'll probably give him a shout and see if he can jump on. Like I said, I really like talking to Ken. You've had him on a lot in the past. And then Jake Lawrence reasserting his dominance on Kentucky Lake and Barkley. It's his 3rd Toyota Series win. And guys, don't look now, but this lake is becoming, Kentucky Lake is becoming a smallmouth factory. Last year we saw it one. I think the top 2 or 3 were primarily smallmouth. Mixed bag this year. A lot of smallmouth coming in on the scales. A lot of decent largemouth too. I know we talked to Tristan McCormick when he was on the water on Kentucky and catching some big greenfish. But 63.2 over a 20-pound average for Jake Lawrence in the Toyota Series on Kentucky Lake. I know I was out of town last week. And I didn't want to talk a lot about the Santee Cooper MLF event that was won by Jacob Wheeler, his record-setting 7th Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour title. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later in the week. It was a very interesting event as far as you want to talk about changing conditions on Santee Cooper, going from like winter to pre-spawn, water temperature, water fluctuation, kind of all over the board, and how they caught that. And then to be there the next week and see him go from pre-spawn on the first day to absolute full-blown spawn. You know, if you watched that live event and saw a lot of those fish were caught winding, Scott Martin, and very impressive with what he's able to do with hard to target bedfish. Actually stayed with Scott and Andrew and Blake Schroeder, who we all fish the event, Frank Williams as well, at Santee Cooper. And I obviously know Scott to say hi. Had never stayed with him before. Guy, I will tell you one thing. That dude is all business and works his ass off for the entire week. He was coming off a back-to-back Elite Series stretch. He'd been on the road for 3 straight weeks. The only reason he was fishing this tournament was because he won the first Southern Open in Florida. So he had to fish all 3 of those events. It would have been real easy for him to mail it in, to come, only practice for a day, take it easy. He's there, so he's already in the Elite Series. Like I said, that dude left Lake Fork at 4 a.m. in the morning. Him and McCoy drove straight through to Santee Cooper. He's up early every morning. He's back last every single night. Worked on tackle for hours every single day. Shot stuff for the show, for the Scott Martin Challenge on his YouTube. Always on the phone talking about business deals. completely and utterly invested into a tournament that, really he was just fishing for money. He talked about how he wanted to, we brought it up and he was like, yeah, that'd be fun to Hanselman, the Open Series, win all 3 divisions of the Open and then the Classic, which is what Hanselman did, I think, in like 14 or 15 in the Toyota Series. But a whole different level of work ethic from Scott Martin that really shows why he is Scott Martin, why is the FLW all-time wins leader, why he's reaped the benefits. The guy works his butt off. Like the little details that he talks about too. Like it's not just do. He's meticulous about his details when it comes to the fishing, when it comes to weight, bait, rigging, when it comes to Instagram posts, Facebook posts, video stuff. Very meticulous, very impressed. He's the ultimate professional. He is the ultimate professional, Scott Martin. So, like I said, on Wednesday, or next Monday, sorry, Kyle Austin, winner of that event, will be on the show. And then Trey McKinney, very impressive, 19, 20-year-old, 130 pounds, all 10 competitors, broke 100 pounds on Lake Fork. And we're about to go into what I think is the most interesting 2 tournaments in Bassmaster Elite Series history. You have 6 rookies, I believe, that are in the top 20 in the points, maybe either 6 or 7 that are in the top 20 in the points, including first, second, or 2 in the top 3 after the first 2 events on historic fisheries, Lake Fork, Toledo Bend. We're now going to Florida, or the Elite Series is going to Florida in a little bit of an odd time of the year in April. Could be fish post-spawn, a lot of history on the St. Johns River, a lot of history on the Harris Chain. It will be very interesting to see how the veterans either adjust or how they take advantage of shallow, target-oriented fisheries, or if this trend continues with the 9 incoming rookies who have pretty much dominated the first quarter of the Bassmaster Elite Series season. All right, I mentioned before that there's a couple cool baits that are available through Best on Tour, my title sponsor for the Opens. Actually, a greenfish tackle collaboration, and I want to say there's only I know there's less than 200 of these baits available, but custom painted rock crawlers. This is the only place you can get them. It is a greenfish tackle Best on Tour and SPRO collaboration. So you sign up for the free weekly newsletter on bestontour.net. The link for these baits is in the description for this YouTube show. You can also go to any of the Best on Tour social medias and also get the link, but I will share. There it is right there. Blue tail craw. Very cool color. And Ghostito. I don't know how you say that. $24.99, very limited qualities. If you're a rock crawler guy, this is a one-time offer, a collaboration between Best on Tour, SPRO, and Greenfish Tackle. When they're gone, they're gone. $24.99. Link in the description of the show. I also have an update on the BTL clothing. The store is done. We are opening that store for 2 weeks on March 25th. Big shout out to ATS Printing and Catherine, who's worked through all the little details. We're going high quality stuff, limited runs of each, and then the store is going to just be open for the 25th through the 8th through the 7th of April, and then it'll close, and then we'll do another drop in June or July. But if you go to the website basszone.com, completely uploaded or completely updated, and you'll see that. So March 25th, if you guys are looking for some BTL merchandise, that is when you'll be able to get your hands on that. All right, I teased it. I want to close with this. Had this guy on. I actually recorded a show with him before he actually went on this epic tear. And now he's all over the place, and he's a household name, but it's Drew Gill. Let me let me just run through some of the stuff that Drew Gill has done this year in 6 tournaments across 4 different levels of competition in 5 different states as a 21-year-old. Started off with a 19th place finish in the MLF College National Championship in mid-January on the Kissimmee chain. Then his first BPT event as a rookie, the end of January. Mind you, these are 6 back-to-back events. 21 years old. Third on the BPT on Toledo Bend. Then the following week, he goes to Rayburn. He wins the Invitational on Rayburn. Then he goes straight to the Toyota Series on Gunnersville and finishes 11th in that in mid-February. Then he finishes 45th in the Bass Pro Tour on Santee Cooper, and then goes straight to West Point for the second Invitational and finishes 5th in that second Invitational. So for those who are counting, in his 6 tournaments across college, the BPT, the Invitationals, and the Toyota Series, that's a 19th, a 3rd, a 1st, an 11th, a 45th, and a 5th. He has top 20s in Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia on pretty much like the Yankee Stadium of bass fishing tour. Kissimmee Chain in Florida, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, Gunnersville, and then the 45th on Santee. He's 14th in the Angler of the Year after 2 BPTs. He's leading the Angler of the Year on the Invitationals. He's 11th in the Central Division Toyotas, and he's 6th in the Plain Division Toyotas after 2 events. And he's right at $150,000 in earnings. And folks, it's March 11th. There you go. 21 years old. It's been a minute since I put my crazy stat hat on, and I really enjoyed putting that together. So thanks for all of you guys. Listen, I got my internet issues are 100% fixed. The guy came out. I had a dude from Vive who came out. He was 1A. He worked on my stuff for 6 hours. That's why we didn't have any backup shows last week. I'll be making up for it this week. Like I said, Gene Gilliland in studio tomorrow. Kyle Patrick in studio on Wednesday the 13th. Day 4 with Uncle Frank on the 14th. Next week we have, which is pre-classic week, we have Kyle Austin on the 18th. Pete Robbins returns to BTL to talk pre-classic information on the 19th, and then stay tuned for the 20th as we head to the Bassmaster Classic, which kicks off on Friday, March 22nd. Stay tuned to all my social media pages for where I will be when at the Bassmaster Classic. I think we got it covered. I think that's all I got for today. Big shout out to Ted. Make sure you guys check out the Nano Alpha technology at Gamakatsu. Follow them on social media. Check out their website. A bunch of cool stuff coming from them. So, all right, that's all we got for today. Tomorrow, sitting right across from me, the man who knows more about bass biology than probably anyone else in the world, Gene Gilliland, Bass Fishing Hall of Famer, in studio. We'll talk to everybody then. Later.